There comes a moment in a woman's life when everyone she relied on is gone, and the only one still standing with her is God. It feels like loss, but it is actually power in disguise. This is not where she breaks, it's where she awakens. When the messages stop coming, when the relationship falls apart, when familiar voices grow silent and all that remains is the quiet presence of God, something deep begins to shift. What feels like abandonment is often divine alignment. You didn't lose everyone by accident, you weren't forgotten, and you weren't being punished. You were being repositioned because God does his greatest work in hidden places, in silence, in solitude, and in seasons no one applauds. And if this message speaks to where you are right now, take a moment to like this video so it can reach another woman who needs it. Leave a comment if you've ever walked through a season where God was all you had, and subscribe to the channel because what's coming next may be the very confirmation you've been praying for. Now let's begin. 1. There comes a point where God allows people to step away so he can step forward. In a woman's life, there are seasons where familiar faces fade, conversations grow distant, and the noise around her slowly disappears. Not because she has been rejected, but because God is creating space. When the phone no longer rings, when the nights become quiet, when the ones she depended on are suddenly absent, she isn't being harmed, she's being invited. Scripture reminds us in 2 Timothy 4:16-17 that Paul stood alone, yet the Lord stood with him, and every chosen woman eventually discovers that same truth. When everyone else leaves, God draws nearer. He is not threatened by her loneliness. He works through it. He allows the crowd to exit so she can finally recognize the presence that never left. People may fail her, not to break her trust, but to teach her who is truly faithful. This is not abandonment. It is alignment. Jesus was seen by many in public, but he was formed in private. He was affirmed at the river, yet refined in the wilderness. And the same pattern unfolds in her life. The woman God is shaping must pass through solitude before she carries significance. Her wilderness is not a sentence. It is a sanctuary. It is where God builds what the world will one day witness. 2. When the noise finally fades, a woman begins to recognize the voice she couldn't hear before. A life filled with constant sound makes it difficult to notice a gentle God. So in his mercy, he often quiets everything around her. He allows certain connections to end, conversations to go unanswered, and relationships to shift. Not to wound her, but to remove the distractions that kept her from listening. God rarely shouts. He speaks in whispers, and a whisper requires stillness to be understood. And in that stillness, something sacred is awakened. Her prayers change, not because she feels obligated, but because her spirit is desperate for truth. She opens Scripture not out of routine, but out of hunger. Slowly, she releases her dependence on human voices and learns to trust the voice of heaven. That is where real transformation begins. She rediscovers who she is, not defined by a role she played in someone else's life, not as an accessory or a backup plan, but as a daughter of the King. She realizes that God is not who she turns to after everything collapses. He is the foundation that holds her upright. He was never her alternative plan. He is the architect of her destiny. Like Hagar in the wilderness, unseen by people yet fully known by God, she learns to declare, "You are the God who sees me." Genesis 16:13. 3. God sometimes removes what a woman leans on so she can learn how to stand. From an early age, many women are conditioned to look outward for reassurance, direction, and security, but a life supported only by people never reveals the strength God placed within her. So he allows the supports to fall away, not to wound her, but to train her. Lamentations 3:22-24 reminds us, "The Lord is my portion, therefore I will hope in him." God did not abandon her. He simply changed the source that sustains her. And the supports he removes are not always people. Sometimes it's her carefully built plans, her routines, the image she worked so hard to maintain, her need to control outcomes, or her hunger for approval. When those things collapse, it feels like loss, but it is actually release. Because in losing what she thought she couldn't live without, she finally discovers who she truly needs. God is not dismantling her life. He is delivering her from dependence and teaching her to stand in freedom. 4. There comes a season when pain stops being the enemy and becomes the instructor. When a woman has nothing left but God, the ache she carries turns into the classroom where purpose is formed. Pain is not always correction. More often, it is purification. Consider Hannah in 1 Samuel 1. Misunderstood, provoked, deeply wounded, and empty in the eyes of others. Yet her tears did not push God away. They pulled him closer. Her sorrow led her into a deeper place of prayer, and her suffering became the altar where her miracle was conceived. Pain has a way of birthing purpose. Scripture reminds us in James 1:2-4 to count trials as joy, not because they feel good, but because they produce endurance and maturity within us. What feels like breaking today is often preparation for tomorrow's calling. The pressure that crushes her now becomes the oil that flows through her later. Some prayers are only spoken from a broken heart. Some depths of God are only discovered when everything else is removed. Pain is not the enemy standing in her way. It is the passage that leads her into destiny. 5. When a woman reaches the place where God is all she has, she begins to remember who she truly is. When outside opinions fade, expectations fall away, and the voices that once defined her go quiet, God steps in and reveals her identity. Because who she is was never meant to be shaped by noise. Like Hagar, who entered the wilderness unwanted and unseen, she emerges marked by God, recognized and named by heaven. Alone with God, the mirrors of human approval shatter, and he becomes her reflection. She no longer sees herself as rejected, but chosen, not as damaged, but in the process of becoming, not as excessive, but designed for impact. In the quiet, she begins to bloom. She recognizes strength where Deborah once stood, faithfulness where Ruth walked, courage where Esther rose, and surrender where Mary said yes. And she sees pieces of her own story in each of them. What once felt like loneliness becomes her place of learning. What felt like isolation becomes sacred ground. Her silence becomes a soil where her true self takes root. 6. There is a strength of faith that can only be formed in isolation. Not borrowed faith, not routine faith, not faith that survives only when life is easy, but faith forged in the wilderness and refined by fire. This is the kind of faith Habakkuk spoke of when he declared that even if the fig tree never blossoms and the fields produce nothing, he would still rejoice in God. Habakkuk 3:17-18. That confession does not come from a woman who has everything. It rises from a woman who has lost much and yet refuses to surrender her praise. This kind of faith makes her immovable. People walking away no longer shake her. She has stood there before. Storms rising no longer frighten her. She has endured deeper ones. Even when heaven feels silent, she understands that silence is not absence, but trust. Her faith is no longer anchored to outcomes or answers. It is rooted in God Himself, and that is what makes her unshakable. 7. When God becomes all she has, He becomes all she needs. There is a moment when a woman stops fighting her season and starts standing firmly within it. When God is all she has left, she discovers He has always been more than enough. What once felt like emptiness becomes fullness. What once felt like lack becomes sufficiency. She no longer looks for people to complete her, rescue her, or validate her, because God has filled the places nothing else could reach. She learns to walk without needing approval, to move without applause, to trust without guarantees. Her peace no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. Her confidence is no longer fragile. She is rooted. She is steady. She is no longer surviving. She is established. When God becomes her source, nothing else can drain her. So if you are in a season where it feels like God is all you have, let this be your confirmation. You are not behind, broken, or forgotten. You are being built. Isolation did not weaken you. It refined you. Silence did not erase you. It revealed you. Pain did not destroy you. It prepared you. And the woman who comes out of this season will not be the same woman who entered it. If this message resonated with your journey, like this video so it can reach another woman who needs this reminder. Leave a comment if God has been your only source in a difficult season, and subscribe to the channel for more messages that speak life, truth, and purpose. Remember this: when you have no one but God, you never had nothing. You had everything.